So today I'm going to be making a sourdough pizza crust that we're just going to make and let it sit in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. When I make my dough, I use the digital scale rather than the measure, like I don't measure by cups or anything. I measure everything by weight. So if you don't have a digital scale, you can get one of these on Amazon. I have one linked in my store. They're super helpful, and I don't think it was very expensive. But this has been a lifesaver when I make bread or any kind of dough. All right, I have my scale zeroed out, and I've got my tub. I am going to take my bread flour, and to my tub I'm going to add my water first. It's 95 degree temperature water, and I'm going to add 185 grams to my tub. Come up on that fast, it's not a lot. Just a little bit more. Oh, close enough. 188, that'll work. The next thing I'm gonna add is sea salt. I'm gonna add 13 grams of sea salt, add it to my water, and then I'm gonna swish it around to kind of dissolve it before I add the flour. Again, zeroing out my scale, so make sure I have it. Correct measurement. 10, seems like a lot of salt, I know. For whatever reason, it works. All right, 13 grams, zero my scale out again. I've done it before where I keep forgetting, I forget to zero out my scale, and then I go to add like my flour after I've already measured something in, and then it becomes like a big math problem, and I can't figure it out. So note to myself all the time, zero my scale out. And I'm gonna add 250 grams of bread flour. All right, like I do when I make regular bread, I am gonna mix this by hand. I'm gonna dip my hand in the water just a little so it doesn't stick as bad. It's gonna stick, but here we go. We're gonna mix that in. I try to just do my fingertips on this because it's gonna be, well, you'll see. Kind of just mixing and pinching to get the flour and water and salt incorporated. And we have a shaggy, ooh, see, I told you, it's all over my hands. A shaggy dough. And the next part, it gets even worse. We scrape it off, and we're gonna add the sourdough. Okay, so I'm combining two different recipes right now. I've kind of found one out of a cookbook that I like, and then one off of another sourdough starter website. And I think I initially added 275 whatever grams of flour I added. I'm gonna add a little bit more because I know once I add my sourdough starter to this, it's gonna become really wet. So I'm gonna put my bin tub back on the scale, and I'm gonna add about another 100 grams of flour. So like I said, I'm not a pro at bread making by any means, and a lot of it's just been trial and error. But most of the time I try, and it turns out pretty decent, if not spectacular. So, all right, there's another 100 grams. So I was gifted a sourdough starter from a neighbor last summer, and I had never done anything with sourdough before, but kind of always wanted to. Got on the sourdough bandwagon. And I tried to keep the sourdough starter alive all summer and could never do anything with it. So I tried to make bread a couple times, and I think I just didn't have the patience. And so the first few attempts at whatever I made didn't work. So I put my starter in the refrigerator, and I left it there and didn't touch it. And then I finally thought, well, I'm gonna pull it back out, and I reawakened the starter, I refed it, and I got it going, and I was able to make some really good bread with it. And then I decided to try a starter from Cultures for Health. And I was sent it's like a dehydrated starter, and you can rehydrate it and get it going. It took me about 7 days. And this starter has been much better even than the other one. But I really think like they both work. So here's my starter that I fed about 12 hours ago and got it nice and active and bubbly. I know it's ready to go because it went up past I have my measure mark and it went past double and got really bubbly and foamy. So I'm gonna kind of stir it and scrape the sides down, and then I'm gonna add this to my dough mixture. Putting it back on my scale again. Zero out. Zero out again because I just put the tub back on. And I'm gonna add 250 grams of starter, which almost uses up all my starter because I didn't feed it and bulk it up. But I'll just take whatever's left and then feed that and bulk it up. And then over the next few days, I'll be back to having a nice amount that I could use for bread. It's not exact, but I'd like to leave enough in there so that I can feed it and build it up again. And this one's just gonna get super messy and slimy. Just scrape my starter off. And it feels kind of gross. Took me a while to get used to this. You just gotta lean into it, get in there and start pinching. That looks good. I'm going to try to scrape as much off my hands as I can. There we go. There, I've got a shaggy ball of dough. Now that this is all mixed, I'm going to cover and I am going to let it sit for 20 minutes before we toss it onto the counter and knead it into our ball of dough that needs to rise. Okay, it's been 20 minutes. So we're going to take our pizza dough, we're going to lightly flour our counter space. Dump it on out, and we're gonna knead it for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. It's not gonna be long. We're really just looking for it to turn into like a smooth consistency. And boy, is it all stuck in the inside of this. Man, stuff is like glue. All right. Just making sure that we've got flour on the counter. And moving it around in half like turns to get it all the way around. And to me, it says, I think the recipe says you're supposed to knead it for about 30 seconds to a minute, but really you can just do this until it starts to get smooth, give or take. So mine I've had in the tub, and so when I scrape it out, like sometimes the bottom of the dough gets a little dry and like, So I just wait until all that feels like it's incorporated, and I know I don't feel any more of like that dry kind of chunky pieces that came off the inside of the tub. Once this is ready to go, I'm gonna rinse out my tub and I'm gonna oil the bottom slightly, put my dough back in there, and that's where I'm gonna let it rest and rise. Add a little swirl of olive oil to the bottom of the tub and put my dough back in there. I'm gonna cover it tightly. Maybe. There we go. Let it sit for 3 hours. All right, it has been several hours, and I think that my pizza dough is ready to divide and shape into balls. You can see it's raised and gassy, and because it's sourdough, it's got like a really nice tang smell to it. So I'm gonna pour this out, and we're gonna divide it into 4 equal-sized or roughly equal-sized balls. Shape those up, and then I'm gonna put them in to my bread proof, like my dough box. I don't know what you call it. Big rectangular dough box. I'm gonna put it in there, and then we will put the lid on that, and that's where they will live until I'm ready to use them in the refrigerator. So I shape my pizza dough balls almost the same way I shape a bread ball. Sometimes I measure these like in grams to make sure that they're equal. Take each little dough, and we're just gonna keep folding it into a round ball, pulling and tucking the sides underneath and pinching the seam. So We want this side of the ball to be smooth and smooth. I don't know what else we want it to be. Just smooth. Kind of get out the air bubbles, and then this little guy's ready to go in. I've sprayed the inside of my box, whatever you want to call it, with some avocado oil. Use olive oil too, but I'm just using avocado oil because that's what I have. So these will go in the fridge and they will sit overnight. I don't think we'll be cooking them tomorrow, so they might sit for a couple days. They can sit in your fridge, and then I'll pull them out when I'm ready to use them and let them get to room temperature before I try to roll them out. And then last one. Look at the cute little nugget. Nice and smooth and ready to turn into a beautiful pizza. There we go. Fridge.